in my world, my dad used to say to me, Ryan, if you're going to say something to somebody, you better be prepared to get punched in the fucking face.
So something your dad would say.
You're listening to the Laughing Couple podcast with your hosts, Brittany and Ryan Ostafy. Join them weekly as they discuss topics such as relationships, kids, sex, parenting, all unfiltered and all with a healthy dose of laughter. Please welcome your hosts, Brittany and Ryan Ostafy.
I heard you talking to Jake.
Back to school.
About
Back
you.
to school.
Are you just
To show
fuck
my
you.
daddy I'm not a fool.
That would never happen if I was at school.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not true.
Oh, the fuck
it
isn't.
makes you sound like such a pompous, like conceited asshole, and I know you're not. But
Gaslighter.
it's not. I'm not being a gaslighter, but when you're like, just that would never happen.
It would never have happened.
You don't control everyone.
I didn't say I control everyone. It just those guys wouldn't be those guys.
All of
in
those
that
guys
situation.
weren't your friends too. Some of them were not your friends, and they would give two fucks what Ryan Ostafy says that they can do or not. Invited to what?
To the party.
Okay. Anyways, I disagree with that.
We had this conversation on this pod, so we're not carrying it into this one.
You have a certain way and you demand respect from the people around you, and you do not let other people bully other people. I can wholeheartily agree with that. And that's one thing I love about you. You've never been a bully.
Nope.
But
no, it's not true.
You can't assume that just because you're there, other people aren't going to be assholes. Like, it's just unfortunately not the case. It's back to school.
It is back to school.
Yes. And I think every parent.
Welcome back.
You don't understand that old school Staples commercial. I think it was Staples.
Yeah.
It's the most. Yeah. You don't understand that
time
until you are a parent. And I love the kids. I love the summer, but damn, did they need some structure.
It's a double-edged sword though.
It's bittersweet.
It is.
is.
Symphony, The Verve, great song. One of my favorite songs of all time, actually. It is bittersweet. And I was saying this to Cooper the other day because he was, worried, concerned about going back to school. And I said, well, why do you not want to go back to school? He said, because I just want to stay home with you guys.
Yeah. And he messes up the words annoy and ignore. And so he's like, Mom, I swear, if I'm home, I won't ignore you. Like, okay.
He also doesn't talk like a 2-year-old.
Yes, he does. He has a little bit of a baby voice. He does.
Is that your Cooper impersonation?
Yeah. He's like, Mom, I
swear to God, I won't annoy you.
Yeah, that's not what I said. I feel like it was pretty good.
I won't-
Is this just like a shit on Brittany day? Like, what's happening? I'm done with this podcast. I'm leaving. It's the Happy Individual podcast.
Well, welcome to the show. I'm your host, single host, not like single as a roommate.
Sign the papers.
Yeah.
Divorce.
Let me see your papers. Here they are.
Okay. So anyways,
That backfired.
it is back to school. The kids were excited. Cooper was excited. He was nervous. Riley, God, are we going to get into this with Riley? Like what happened?
Well, it's in our notes to talk about. So
it is. But are we going to go right into that? No,
Yeah.
I just meant like right now. Is that where we're going towards? Okay.
Well, let's go into it.
So Riley is 9 and we are already dealing with the bullshit that comes with girls. Like there's just so much drama already.
Who runs the world?
Girls.
Who runs the world?
That's the worst impression of that song I've ever done.
Yeah. Impressions are not your thing today.
Okay, anyways. So she says to us, she says, Mom, one of my good friends told me that my other friend said some mean things about me. And we were like, okay, what did she say that this person said? And she said that this girl called me fat and ugly. And at first I was like taking my hoops off, like we ride at dawn. Today I am 9. So it was hard to hear. And then we say, okay, like we are very lucky. We talk to our kids like adults because we do have these conversations all the time. And we have the privilege to talk to a lot of therapists and psychologists with children. And Jake. Yeah. And I said to her, okay, Riley, like and here's the thing, I heard her on FaceTime with her friend, and her friend said, because Riley's like, well, what did she say again? She kept trying to get like, what did she say? What did she say specifically? And her friend was like, I don't really remember. Like, I don't know. I'm like, whoa, red flag number one. If your friend doesn't remember the exact words, now the issue becomes like, how true is this? Is it skewed? Did it play the telephone game? And then she had told you that she said that she was a big fat liar, which could have been where the word fat came from. Anyways, there's so much that happens through the grapevine. And we're just like, how are we dealing with this already? And so Ryan and I had a conversation with her, and we were trying to be we want you to stand up for yourself. Because I was very proud of her. She's like, I want to address this right away. I want to talk to her because I want to make sure that I'm not just like festering. And I'm like, okay, so Ryan and I are like, let's maybe not do that the first day of school. Like,
welcome back. Fuck you.
Heard you're talking shit.
Yeah.
So Ryan made such a good
Where's
point.
your typewriter now, bitch?
He said, you need to go and approach her in discovery, not in an accusatory manner. So instead of going up to her and being like, let's just name her Gabby, because I don't want to reveal the real names. And we're just like, instead of saying, hey, Gabby, I heard you were talking smack, right? Like, no, you need to go up and be like, hey, Gabby, somebody had told something to me, and it kind of hurts my feelings, but I care enough about our friendship to have a discussion with you. And you're in discovery. You're not in an accusing conversation. And she wanted to be mad. She wanted to be angry, and it was frustrating. And we also wanted to be like, can you not do that on the first day of school? Because what happens if it wasn't true? And then this poor Gabby is super excited, and Gabby adores Riley. And so we were like, I just don't think it's true. And we didn't want to gaslight her and tell her that her feelings were not real. And so we needed to honor those and kind of guide her into a place that was a little bit more productive. It just was so shitty. Like, she's 9.
Yeah, we didn't handle it as smoothly as we could have handled it.
I think we did pretty well.
I thought we did great.
She did run out of the room
She cried.
crying and
She
slammed
cried.
her door. We did great.
I thought it was good. I thought it was smooth. We didn't handle it properly. And I'll tell you, we've learned this through marriage, meet people at their emotions.
Right.
And we did not meet her at her emotions. We didn't validate her emotions. She never felt completely
Because she
heard.
was,
And
like,
we went
whiny.
right into fix.
Because she got like whiny. And then both of us, when she just
The
gets like
fuck?
that and she gets like
Don't do
talking
it.
like a baby, we're
No.
like, can you not?
Not going to do it. And I'm not going to even do the fake whiny Riley voice because I can't do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be called out on it. Bad impersonation. But I did come back to her, and I had a wonderful conversation with her. And I said to her, Riley, there's a couple of things here that you need to understand. In life, you will be given opportunities where something is said to you and you don't have all the facts.
Mm-hmm.
When you are in a situation where you don't have all of the facts, you need to discover. This is why in court they have a process called discovery, where all of the facts are presented so that both sides understand.
Is that what it's called? Discovery?
Discovery before court is
Like, you haven't
discovery.
submitted this in evidence, so it's inadmissible in court? Is that what they're referring to?
Yes. So they go into discovery,
Law and order.
and during discovery, they find out how strong each person's case is. And then they decide whether or not, both parties decide whether or not they want to go to court and battle each other. Most times in discovery, it's discovered that the one person's case is not as strong as they thought, and they settle.
Yeah.
So in this situation, I said to her, Riley, you have the opportunity, and you will have many opportunities where you have maybe 90% of it. And I said, let's say, for instance, Gabby did say this. Let's say, for instance, Gabby was talking smack about you. But what if she wasn't?
Yeah. And now Gabby's hurt.
So you can come to it and you can say, okay, this person said this, and this person said this, and this person said this. Well, that may be true, but it also may be taken out of context. And so when you talk to Gabby, you have the opportunity to allow her to present her case. Let her know what she said and how she said it. And Riley was so brilliant. She said to me, yeah, but Dad, when you were my age, if someone came to you and said, were you talking behind my back? Would you say yes? And I said, well, yeah, I would say yes. And she's like, well, most people would say no. And I said, true. And she's like, so how would I know if she's telling the truth or not? And I said, rather, the truth is you won't know if she's telling the truth or not. But what you can guarantee is now that you've called her out on it and
She
gave her the
knows that you
opportunity,
know.
she ain't going to talk shit about
I
you
know.
because it's going to come back.
That's what I said to her too. And it'll reveal that who she was talking shit to has loyalties to Riley. So
Right.
it's not going to happen again. Either way, it's a win-win.
But here's the thing, and here's what bothers me, and I hate to say this. I'm not trying to label, but this stuff doesn't necessarily happen to the same level with men that it does with women.
I agree.
And it's certainly, I'm sure it's happening more now today than it did before. And Jake and I were talking about this. Now, Jake and I are 10 years apart, so we lived in different worlds. In my world, my dad used to say to me, Ryan, if you're going to say something to somebody, you better be prepared to get punched in the fucking face.
So something your dad would say.
Right? You better be prepared for it. So you better be right.
Yeah.
Because if you're wrong, you're going to get punched out.
Basically, you're going to look like an idiot. You're going to put your friendship in jeopardy if it's not true, because now this person is hurt. And I said that to Riley. I said, honey, unfortunately, like this doesn't end. I
No.
gave her 2 scenarios that happened to me this year. And I said, somebody said that I said something, which I did not say. And it was skewed in a way. And I approached both of these people, told my piece, was calm, empathetic. And one of the relationships is still great and everything is fine, but it did hurt me.
The other one is not.
The other one is not. And
It's not.
she's like, well, why don't you talk to her anymore? And I said, listen, like I told her who I am. I said, that's not who I am. I would never say those things. If you choose to believe somebody else, that's on you. Like that's not who I am. And I said, I don't need people like that in my life. If they want to paint a picture of me that isn't me, that's their loss.
Yeah, and these are tough times because Riley's now at the age, and we had interviewed someone about a year ago, and they had said to us that I can't remember what her name is, driving me nuts. She had said that girls by the age of 8 stop being their authentic self and start being what society deems them to be. And this is where it happens. It's not necessarily society as of like the Kardashians and what they see on TV.
No,
it's
just
what
their
happens in their
surroundings.
inner circle.
Yeah.
They learn to adapt and they learn to survive. And to do so, they give up their
Their
self-expression
innocence.
and their innocence. But I said to Riley, I'm like, this is the hardest thing for me to tell you because this is what's going to happen for the rest of your life. You are going to be surrounded by friends, but majority of those people are not friends. They are friendly and they serve a purpose in that moment. She's like, well, how will I know when my friend is my friend? I said, you will only know when your friend is your friend when they get the opportunity to not be your friend. And if they choose not to be your friend in that opportunity, their loyalties are not what you think they are. And I'm like, that's a sad reality. So you have to treat your friends like they're your friends.
Right.
You have to be loyal. You have to have integrity. You have to have moral uprightness until they don't.
Right.
And when they don't, it's not that they're not your friends anymore. You can
just know where
continue to be friendly with them. You just now know that's someone who doesn't have my back. And that's okay. You're not going to have a lot of people that have your back.
And more just like, I think that's a little bit of an arbitrary thing for her and like having your back. Like, it's just a matter of Riley, like who you tell and who you vent to, that might change, right? Like you might say, I'm having a bad day and this person was really mean to me. And you now know that your words might be taken out of context. And so that person's not somebody you want to vent to. You can vent to mommy and daddy. We'll always have your back.
Yeah. And that's the best part about it. And that's what I said to her. I'm like, Riley, do you know who your mom's best friend is?
She's like,
And she said, yeah, Auntie K. And I'm like, no, your mom's best
fucking
friend is
me.
not Auntie K. Your mom's best friend is me. Do you want to know why your mom's best friend is me? And she said, yeah. I said, because your mom knows no matter what, I've got her back. Your mom never has to question me. She never has to question what's going to happen. She knows if there's an opportunity for me to defend you, I'm going to defend you. And I'm not suggesting that DK wouldn't.
she would also do all of those things.
I'm just saying,
those people are rare.
Your mom knows that in any situation, I'm there for her and I will be there for her. That is why I'm her best friend. And I said, and Riley, in life, you'd be lucky to have more than one of those people in your lives because most people aren't. They're just not going to be that person. And that's okay. They don't need to be that person. But the cool thing about having a very small circle of those people is if you do say something and it does get back to someone, you know who you told.
100%.
It's like, that's interesting. How do you have access to that information? I only told that person.
Let's talk about, because
Sex,
we're on the topic of school. I know we've briefly talked about our happenings when we were in school, but I think it might be fun to like talk about like memorable things that happened in school, whether it was elementary or high school, something bad, if you're bullied, like I think that might be fun to do.
Let's do it.
All right. Do you have a specific moment?
What was there? Let me ask you this question, because school was not fun for me. Well, school was really fun for me, but the educational system was not like, I'm not team school. Let's just be very clear. I was not the book smart guy, right? So I've got some positive things because school was great. I was athletic and I enjoyed my friends and had a lot of them. So I thoroughly enjoyed school, but the system itself, not so much. What's the funniest thing you ever did in school? Like, what's the one moment that you say that was the funniest thing that ever happened in school?
Okay. So I would say at GCI, my high school, we had something called the fashion show, which was a mix of basically dance numbers and fashion. And we would go to the mall, the Cambridge Center, and stores would sponsor each of the choreographed dances. Okay. So like everybody wanted to be in the fashion show. You auditioned for it. And then there were choreographies you would meet like 3 times a week. You would go over the routine. And then on the night of the fashion show, you wore these clothes and you did these numbers, and you also like walked down the aisle, and it was like a dance / fashion show. It was huge. So I remember, I think I was in grade 10. I didn't make it in grade 9 because the girls who were running it thought I was a slut. So they didn't put me in it. That's a whole other story.
No sluts allowed.
No, they were really mean to me.
Oh, well, Samantha's here. We said sluts.
Anyways.
There's 2 of them. We're only allowed 1.
It was in grade 10, and I remember because the heater boys were still there, and we were doing the song I Will Survive. Like, at first I was afraid. That one. Yeah. And Joe let me have, the girl who was running the choreography of this one, because she ran it that year, she let me have like a small little solo at the beginning, and no one really saw it. And so she just let me do like whatever the fuck I wanted to do. And I think that people thought that I was maybe this like slutty blonde bimbo who didn't have a personality. And so then I got to come out and be like a total idiot. Like I came out in this really pretty black dress and then just acted a fool. Like I didn't know how to dance. Well, I did, but I did it on purpose. And the whole audience was laughing and I made a fool of myself. But I was like, I really don't care. So that was probably it for me.
That was your moment.
It was. Everybody was laughing. I didn't care that there were older boys in the audience and they probably thought something of me, and it was kind of just my opportunity to be like, I took back my power.
Yeah, took back your power.
My power.
Took back your power.
I'm like, you think I'm something bad? I'm actually really funny, motherfucker.
Yeah.
So
from 8 to 16, I just molded with society, but now I'm me.
Now it's my time.
Now it's me.
Yeah, that's
like
probably
this
mine.
Dance, fuck you.
What about you?
What?
Same question. Do you have a moment where you were like, I was just so funny?
No, that was not the fun. Like, yeah, that's what I thought my question was, but your answer wasn't funny. It was uplifting. That was a empowering moment in your life.
Yeah,
I said the funniest thing.
Yes, but that
funniest
was
thing funniest thing I think I ever did, because it's a memory that still serves me to this day.
You're so mean.
No, I'm just saying I loved your answer. I thought it was wonderful. Congratulations. Way to take it back. We had a buddy, Curtis, and we used to always kind of like, razz each other, whatever. Curtis was taking a piss in one of the urinals, and my buddy Jason and I grabbed him and pulled him back. Just a quick little pull back. And he pissed all over himself. Like, I'm talking pissed all over himself. He went from total control to no control, and it was just kind of going all over the place. And I cried. I laughed so hard because that was first recess. We still had to lunch before you could go home. And our whole class smelled so bad, like urine, because Curtis literally pissed himself from his knees to his chest.
You're so mean. You talk about not allowing people to bully people, and that is such a bullying moment.
But we did it to each other. It's not like,
did you get pissed on yourself?
It's not like Curtis was. It's not like Curtis was beneath us, and we did this to Curtis.
I bet you Curtis still thinks about it.
Curtis was one of the boys. Curtis do stupid things.
Because he wanted to be cool.
No, Curtis was like an Olympic swimmer. Like, he was cool. We just happened to pull him back and he pissed all over himself. I thought that was hilarious.
I don't think it was very funny.
I still think it's funny. In fact, every time I see someone I know that's taking a piss when I walk into a bar, the first thing I think is, I could pull that motherfucker back and he could piss all over himself. I know exactly what's going to happen if I do that. I'm a 39-year-old man and I still want to pull people back.
That is so weird.
Yeah. Anyways.
All right.
That was one of my favorite ones. Did you have a favorite teacher?
Yeah, I really like Mr. Dick. I know that's his name though. I did. I really liked him.
Tell me more about that.
No, he was just
Mr. Dick.
He was honestly just like you respected him, not because he was an asshole. Like, you know how you just immediately have respect for some teachers who have a reputation of just being like super strict and like assholes. They just demand it. Dickie was like, that's just what we called him. Okay. Dickie.
You had a nickname for your teacher? Mr. Dick?
Everybody called him Dickie. It's not weird.
Hey, what's
he was
up,
such a nice
Dickie?
guy.
Nothing much, vulva.
He, what the fuck? He taught earth and space science.
I'm sure he did.
And he was a really nice guy. And like, he just taught you in a way that didn't make you feel stupid. He was so kind. He was the smartest fucking person ever. He actually works at the Premier Institute now and is like a really big deal. Anyways, he was just so nice, like so nice, so intelligent, and just made school fun. Like, you came to the classroom and you felt safe and it was fun. So that was my first teacher.
My teacher was Mrs. Johnson, grade 7. And I'll tell you what.
Mrs. Johnson like a dick.
Oh yeah, that's funny. That is funny. I never thought about it, her being a Johnson.
That's so weird.
I never thought about that. Maybe because I respected her.
Yeah, maybe because I respected Mr. Dick.
Yeah, you did. I'm sure you did. Dickie. Miss Johnson. I'll tell you why Miss Johnson was my favorite teacher of all time. You know, I was thinking about this the other day. When you go from kindergarten all the way to high school, because multiple teachers in high school, you've got about 40 teachers by the time you graduate high school. I can probably name 10 of them. I can probably name 10 of them. Mm-hmm. And of the 40 and of the 10, there is one that sticks out. There are probably 4 that actually stick out, but one that really sticks out. No, in a positive. The ones I can name are bad.
Okay.
Most of the ones I can name are bad.
Okay.
There were some of you not nice.
Okay.
Anyways, I enjoyed school. I love school. Kindergarten.
Hold on. You literally just said 5 minutes ago.
No.
Fucking hated school.
No,
so which one is it?
I'm about to tell you. Don't interrupt my story. I loved school. Kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, the best time of my life. Grade 3, I had a teacher. Her name was Miss Sharana Grotsky. We used to call her Miss Cher because we couldn't pronounce Sharana Grotsky.
Okay.
Miss Cher ruined school for me. She was dealing with some stress in her life.
Is this the narcoleptic one?
She had to sleep. She had bad headaches. Like, a lot of stuff was probably going on in her life, but I was in grade 3 and I didn't know that. And I frankly didn't care. I was in grade 3. She was mean. Yeah. She was mean and vindictive, and she ruined school for me. And so I realized in grade 3, because she called my work garbage.
Which is wild. Can you imagine today?
She gave me a sticker and said, excellent, and then handed it to me and said, this was garbage. Anyways, wow. So she ruined it for me. And in grade 3, I made the decision, because this is often what happens at that age. I made the decision that, I'm not smart. Miss Cher thinks I'm not smart. I'm not smart. And so I carried on just not being smart.
You played that role.
I played that role until grade 7. And Miss Johnson was the first teacher from grade 3 all the way to grade 7 that listened to me talk. Mm-hmm. And she said to my mom, I listen to Ryan talk. I see how he interacts with all of the students. I see how he interacts with me and how he interacts with the teachers. He's a brilliant kid. Why is he not brilliant in school? Like, what's happening here? And so because she noticed and listened and actually paid attention, she asked the right question. And my mom said, I've been saying this entire time, because my sisters are older than me. And we're talking like, I think my sister Laura had a 98 average in high school. And my sister Michelle had a 97 average. So it was like Ostafy, smart, Ryan, right? And that's kind of what happened. And she started asking the right questions. And because she asked the right questions, we brought in someone from outside and they said, hey, this is what's actually going on with this child. And from there, everything made sense. And I have my life as a result of it, because had Miss Johnson not come into the situation, I probably would have lived the rest of my life just thinking I was a dummy. Mm-hmm. But I'm not a dummy.
Right.
But Miss Johnson knew that, and she did something about it. And I'm not saying the teachers in between Miss Johnson, they weren't doing their job, But you know it, you're a teacher. I run a business. When you meet someone in the first week, 2 weeks, you figure out whether or not you like them.
For sure.
And as a teacher, you figure out, okay, this person's going to be this person's going to be this person's going to be this, and you typecast them. And then that's what they're like the rest of the year. I had a high school teacher. He was a great teacher. I had a 96 in his class, Mr. Heckman. He was awesome.
What was
I loved
the
him.
class?
Hickman. It was geography. And he was amazing, but he was only filling in for this teacher named Miss Shaw. And Miss Shaw, because she was on maternity leave, I had a 96 in his class. Miss Shaw comes, and as soon as she comes, I ended up with like a 72 in that class. Same class, same subject matter, different teachers. One saw potential in me, one hated me. And instantly, I remember handing in my final exam to her, and I said, I have never in my life had a teacher like you. And I hope to God I never have another one like you.
You said this to her face?
Yeah. How do you go from a 96 to a 72?
Jesus. That's a lot.
You know what? I will say this. Teachers don't realize the impact that they have on kids' lives. They do not realize it. And what I would say, if you are a teacher and you're listening to this, especially if you're like pre-high school, every single kid that comes into your class, if you don't like them, you can do something about that. I can guarantee you there are exceptions to the rules. There are some kids who are dealing with some things that are out of your control. But for the most part, if you don't like them, you've got them for like literally 9 months.
I think it's hard though, and I will play like the other side of this because I left the profession because of the like there's just no accountability. Teachers will try. And because the boards here don't place accountability on the students anymore, like there is no late marks. Literally a student can hand in their assignment at the end of the year that you've assigned at the beginning of the year. Like, what are we teaching them? But I find unfortunately, they're going to give up because you're trying so hard to get something and you're not getting support over here from the people that you need support from, your board, the parents. Like, I feel like today it is like, if I ever came home from school, okay, and my parents got a phone call and was like, Brittany did X, Y, and Z, I would be like, it would be like, what did you do? Why are the teachers calling? Today, it's like, well, what did you do to trigger like, there's just no accountability and it drives me fucking crazy. And we have so many teacher friends and that I hear this from. And anytime I talk about it on the gram, all of my teacher in the community are like, this is why I left the profession. This is why my heart's not in it anymore, because there's no accountability and it's exhausting emotionally, mentally, trying to do your job and you're not able to. Like, I don't want to even get into this.
Okay, so I'll redact my statement, and I will say this: if there's a kid in your class and you don't think they're the brightest or the sharpest tool in the shed, but they're respectful,
yeah, that's totally different.
Give them a chance.
That's totally different.
Give them a chance. Because I'll tell you right now, I was never disrespectful. Actually, I do have a funny disrespectful story that I want to tell you about one of my teachers. I was never disrespectful to my teachers. Always miss, ma'am, sir, because I respected them. I respected them as adults. I didn't like them, but I respected them. And to your point, if I didn't respect them, I'd hear it from my mom.
Before you go into your funny story, because I want to tell about the one teacher that I did not like.
Yeah.
And I feel like the teacher's names really fit them. His name was Mr. Page and he taught English, which is very funny. And it was spelled like Page, Page, like a page of a book. So he just had, it could be Paige.
It could be.
Anyways, it
wasn't.
He like what you said, Miss Sher didn't like you. He did not like me. Like, I don't know what it was. And I was a good kid. Like, I did well. I was quiet. I wasn't really quiet, but I had good grades and I never had an issue. And I was pretty good at English. And so he was an ass. And anytime he was lecturing about a book or something, I focus by doodling. Like, that's just what I do. Like, if he's talking and reading, I will doodle. And he caught me doodling a couple times and he was like, you're not paying attention. And I was like, Mr. Page, like, this is how I pay attention. And this is before we had like learning centers, or maybe just more aware of how different people learn. Like, it's not all the same, auditory, visual, whatever. And so I think he was pissed off because he would call on me about a question that he's talking about. And I would look up and he expected me not to know what the hell was happening. And I told him the answer. It was right. And he did it like 3 times in this class. And he got so embarrassed and so pissed off. He called my parents and we had to have a meeting, and there was another teacher present. And like my parents were pissed off that they got a phone call first, because like I talk to my friends. I did like to talk, but I never ever interrupted the class. I always got my work done, and I wasn't being disrespectful. It's just how I learned. And after the meeting, my parents were like, all good. Like, we understand, like, he was a dick. But I remember after parent teacher meeting, they came home and they were like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on in that class? Like, he does not like you. And they were so disappointed in me until they met him, and until I was able to tell my side of the story, because he was just like, she's not listening. She's like talking, she's drawing. My parents were like, what the fuck? Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Is she getting her work done? Yes. Is she making you look like an idiot because you're trying to make her look like an idiot? And that's the worst part. You are trying to make me look like an idiot in the middle of class. You're not teaching me. And I get it. Like, there's a lesson every once in a while. Jimmy in the back. What was that? I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. Exactly. Like, that's
Eat it,
different.
Jimmy.
That's different. Anyways, you're right. Like, those teachers I still remember this. Like, I don't remember anything else about that class. I just remember that moment and being like, you're a tool.
I had a teacher named Mr. Sullivan in grade 9 religion, and I had an 81 coming into the final exam. I was on the dean's list, whatever you're going to call that. I was on the dean's list. My parents were so proud of me, because coming out of grade 8, like, I still was a little bit of a dummy. So the idea that I was on the dean's list, it was a big deal in my family, because I actually cared in grade 9. I'm like, I'm going to change who I am. Like, I got an opportunity, a fresh slate. Nobody knows who I am.
Right.
I'm going to be a good student. And I had an 81 coming into his class, and I crushed the final exam. Crushed it. I saw my marks, and I came to the board, at the end of the year, and you got to see what your final marks were. And I had a 78. I'm like, how did I have an 81 coming in, crush the exam, ace the exam?
86.
No, 81.
Oh.
Had an 81 coming in, crushed the exam, and the exam's weighted at like 15%. So you would think my mark would go up, and my mark went down. So I went to Mr. Sullivan and I said to him, Mr. Sullivan, like, how did my mark go down? I aced the final exam and I had an 81 coming in.
Yeah.
And he said to me, because you're not an 80 student.
What?
And I said, what? He's like, you're not an 80 student, so I didn't give you an 80.
That's fucked.
And you know what? He was right. After that, never an 80 student.
But that's wild, though, because then it puts something in your brain to be like,
that's
no,
exactly what it did.
I'm going to literally peg myself down a level because this stranger told me that I don't get to be up here. I don't get to strive for that.
It was an opportunity for me to say, fuck you, I'll prove you wrong.
Yeah, maybe that's what he was going for.
And I didn't do that.
Instead,
I
you
said,
just crushed yourself.
wow, okay, here I am a semester into this, and I'm back to who I was in grade 8. I
That's
guess
so sad.
I'll be the funny jock. And that's who I was.
I hope Mr. Sullivan's listening.
My mom lost her shit.
I'm sure.
My mom lost her marbles when I told her that. Mm-hmm. So this is the meanest thing I ever did to school. And while I'm doing this story, I want you to think of the meanest thing you ever did. To this day,
I didn't do anything.
To this day, it hurts my heart that this happened to me. That happened to somebody else, actually. So I was in class. I was sitting in the back with Steph Begiawa, and we were having a conversation, and we had a supply teacher come in, and I can't remember for the life of me what her name was. And this supply teacher, I hope she's still here. God love her. She was double cross-eyed.
Double cross-eyed.
Both eyes were not in the right.
So cross-eyed.
Yeah, but like, you could be singular or you could be double. They're totally different.
Cross-eyed or a lazy eye.
She did not have a lazy eye.
So
she was cross-eyed.
Okay.
Yeah, so she was cross-eyed. And like,
Jeez,
not her fault, not her fault. To be honest with you, I wasn't making fun of her.
Okay.
No, listen, this is important to know. This is why it hurts my heart, because I know how she felt, and I feel terrible that she would have felt this way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking to Steph, and she says, stop talking. So I look up, and she's not looking at me. So I'm like, okay, she's not talking to me, right? So I keep talking to Steph. And she said, I said, stop talking. And I look up, and again, she's not looking at me. So I'm like, okay, she's talking to somebody else. And so I keep talking to Steph. And she said, for the last time, I told you to stop talking. And I look up, and she's like, got her finger pointing at me. Now her finger is pointing at me. Her eyes are not, but her finger's pointing at me. And so I'm confused. And I said to her, I'm like, Miss, are you talking to me? And she's like, yes, I'm talking to you. But she wasn't looking at me. And it wasn't until that millisecond that I realized, oh my God, I've never looked at her eyes.
Yeah.
She's cross-eyed. And then I felt like
so bad.
I felt like a bag of shit.
Yeah.
And then how am I supposed to, how a bell rings. Hey, miss, just so you know, I'm really sorry. I didn't realize you're cross-eyed. No, I'm not going to say that to that woman. I just ate crow. I'm like, I'm sorry. And
that's not mean.
If you're her and you got some arrogant little prick that says to you, are you talking to me?
I know, but it's not like you were like, I couldn't tell because of your fucking eyes. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like you were being an ass. You genuinely didn't know that she was talking to you. So it's not intentionally
It's
mean.
true, but you know her whole life people have been dicks to her about that. And I was not trying to be a dick and I ended up being a dick.
Yeah.
But unbeknownst to me, she was cross-eyed. Had I known she was cross-eyed, I would have just assumed she was talking to me.
You weren't a dick. You were a dick on the football field.
Yeah, of course I was. You had to. It's survival.
Yeah, you were not nice there.
Jake and I just talked about that this morning. I had a football coach and he changed my life. His name was Jay Sharon. And we played football. The season was over. And he pretty much said to me, I'll sum it up, but he pretty much said to me, Ryan, you're an incredible athlete. You're a great football player. But I would never fucking play for you. And I said,
How old were you?
What do you mean?
12? High school? Oh,
12?
you weren't even in high school yet.
No. I got angry in football later on in my life, but I was not a dick. And he said to me, he's like, you've been blessed with talent and leadership, but you're not a leader. I would never play for you. You are an asshole. And I was like, oh, now this guy, Jay Sharon, played in the CFL. He was a huge human being. And to me, he was like, oh my God, this is coming from like a professional football player. Like, oh my God. 2 years later, flash forward.
What was it about? Like you said, you were an asshole on the field in life. Like what?
I was an asshole on the field. I was an absolute dick to my teammates.
Like, what did you do?
I just cussed people out if they made the wrong play. I'd call them out for it.
On your team, not
my
even
team.
the opposite. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's rough.
I got Sportsman Player of the Year, believe it or not.
Because of this guy.
No, before that, because I was always nice to the other team. I was a dick to my own team, right? If they fucked up, I called them out on it. I demanded greatness out of them in such the worst way possible.
Yeah.
And so 2 years later, I'm still the quarterback. He coaches the team again. And at the end of the year, he comes up to me and says, hey, Ryan, I don't know if you remember, but 2 years ago, I had a conversation with you at the end of the year. And I looked at him. I'm like, yeah, you called me an asshole. He's like, yeah, you remember that? I'm like, of course I remember that. That conversation changed my life. He's like, I just want you to know it would be an honor to play on your team now.
Oh.
Yeah. It's cool. It's one of the coolest moments in my life.
I feel like you probably would have got a little spicy.
I was too busy doing push-ups.
Yeah.
I didn't
100%
cry.
chocolate.
But I remember that. That was like, you're talking 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago. I remember that to this day. He changed how I act as a leader. I became a team member as opposed to the person who controls the team.
Right. I was never, honestly, like I'm trying to think back in my school days, and I honestly was never mean. I think the meanest thing I've ever said was in grade 8, this new girl came to our school and she had a reputation about her. She came from another school and she was like scary. Like I remember everyone being like, don't fuck with her. Like she smoked, she did drugs, like she was a lot. And when 13 years old, like I was scared of her. And we were in the portable and there's a girl in our class who was so annoying. She was always that like, you got to go early unless anyone has any questions. And it was always her being like, well, and everyone was just like, for fuck's sakes, Kelly, like,
stop asking goddamn questions. Save them.
She didn't make it easy to like her. Okay. And like looking back now, like she was probably, she's very intelligent, maybe just didn't have a lot of social cues, but as a 13-year-old girl, I was like, can we, like, I just want to go outside. Like, this is so annoying. And so I remember when this other girl, her name was escaping me, but she came into, let's just call her Erica. She came into the portable and they were like, this is her. And everybody already knew about like her scary reputation because she was friends with the badass girl in our school. And so we were like, oh, I'll stay away from them. And she came into the class and Miss Bennett, my teacher, was like, take a seat. And I remember Erica came over and she was about to sit beside Kelly. And I mouthed to her, don't want to sit there, right? Trying to be like, I'm going to give her the lowdown. Okay. And then she looked at me and gave me like the rudest look ever. And I was like, okay, whatever. So she sat down and then she was super mean to me for a couple of recesses. And then eventually like came up to me and was like, she said something along the lines like, I didn't like that you came in and you told me where you think that I should sit. Like, you don't even know this girl. You don't know me. I thought that was really fucking rude. She had like a lot of Like looking back, I respect her for that because she was like, "That's so rude. You don't know her. Like you don't know me, and like you're painting a picture of this girl." And I was like, "Holy fuck!" Like I guess so. I'm just trying to help you out. Anyways, Erica ended up making fun of this Kelly girl throughout the rest of the year. So I was like, "Well, I tried to warn you." But that was probably the meanest thing I ever did. But other than that, like I was not mean. I was bullied a bunch of times, but I wasn't mean. Like. Ever.
You know what you probably did, and this is typical of kids. When you were intimidated by her, you wanted her to know that you were at the same level of cool as her.
100%.
Don't sit beside her. She's a loser.
Right. Which made me a loser.
Which made you a loser.
100% made me a loser.
Sorry.
No, it was true. Like I looking back now, and if I ever found out that like Riley was like that, I'd be like, I wouldn't be like, you're a loser.
I broke up. Yeah.
You're a fucking loser.
I broke up with a girl. I loved her. I thought she was an unbelievable human being. In high school, I walked by the woman's washroom and I heard her cussing out this other girl. And the way she talked to this other girl, she came out of the bathroom and I just remember looking at her being like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
She's like, what? I'm like, who were you just talking to? Oh, this loser, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, we're done.
Yeah.
She's like, what? I'm like, I never, ever want to associate myself with someone who talks to someone like that.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. Mm-hmm. We're done.
Yeah.
We ended up dating like a couple years later because she got a little bit better. But I was like, it doesn't work for me. That's why when we talk about it, I'm like, no, that wouldn't have worked. In my space, I wouldn't have dealt with it.
Mm-hmm.
I just wouldn't have dealt with it.
Yeah,
I don't like people like that.
Then that's fair, but you just wouldn't have hung out with them. Like that's the difference. And that's what I always say. Like you might have had a different friend group. That shit still would have happened. You can't be everywhere at all at once.
I understand.
And we're referring to like Ryan.
I'll tell you why I think it would have been, because I played football with these guys.
Yes,
these were my best buddies. So why would I not have hung out with them?
You're not understanding. It wasn't all of the football guys. There was like 3 of them. The rest of them didn't play football.
Okay, well, maybe those 3 of them would have not been sitting there because
either way,
we wouldn't have been
that
sitting
shit would
there.
still happen because you wouldn't be hanging out with those guys. Like it's
maybe
either
so.
way.
Maybe so.
Oh man,
School. Welcome back.
Yeah.
Parents, congratulations. You made it through the summer. For those of you who work from home, wow, congratulations.
Yeah, seriously.
That was tough.
Welcome back to your sanity.
Welcome back. Anyways, we're done, right?
Peace.
We're done?
Be with you.
Peace out, A-Town.
Cause aside from my soul,